The Folk Tales of the Mountain Backdu. Hello. Today, I am going to tell the story of the first part of the Ginseng cave. At the foot of the Namsan mountain, in the Naon county of the mountain Backdu region, Eombog, who was kind-hearted and good at work, lived. After his father, who had been sick for several years, passed away, her mother was also sick, and he was increasingly hard up for living as the days went by. One year, it was the season to gather ginseng. Eombog tried to dig up ginseng and sell it to treat her mother's disease and handle meager living nicely. However, he couldn't buy provisions for going to gather ginseng because he was in the state of sipping watery gruel every day. Somehow, he kept thinking that whenever he went to the mountain, he could definitely dig up ginseng. After thinking and thinking about preparing a food, he decided to visit a rich man in the village. That rich man was known for being greedy and stingy, but Eombog couldn't come up with any other way. The rich man lived in a magnificent 8-room tile-roofed house with a 2-story veranda. Eombog went to the front of the veranda of the upper room and called the owner out.
Your Excellency, are you there?
Who is it? Come in.
Eombog didn't dare to go in and waited for the rich man to come out in front of the veranda. The rich man, wearing a silk jeogori of the Korean-style jacket and a gat of the Korean-style hat, came out with a long tobacco pipe in his mouth. He was very loud and proud in his attitude. Eombog pleaded, bending down as if he would touch the ground with his nose.
Your Excellency, I would appreciate it if you could lend me rice, 32 kilograms.
Why rice, all of a sudden?
I'm going to dig ginseng.
What? Ginseng? Are you confident?
Yes, sir.
It was also incredible to Eombog himself that he could have given this answer.
Hey, that's a great idea. I'll lend rice, 32 kilograms to you. You need not pay interest. But you have to with Manpil, my servant. Is it worth trying to get this?
Eombog stood with feeling uneasy because he couldn't understand why the rich guy is so kind to him.
Why do you keep your mouth shut? Are you a dumb person who have eaten honey? Are you saying you can't even share it in half?
It's not that. I'm so grateful.
Oh my God.
Thus, Eombog left to dig ginseng with Manpil. Manpil was a faithful pawn of the rich guy. Even though he was not tall, he was a sophisticated and insidious guy. He usually didn't work much, only played very hatefully, but he did anything without hesitation if he's given any chance. No matter how big he committed, he didn't budge from his bad attitudes, because he had a strong backing up. Therefore, people hated and were more afraid of Manpil than the rich man. Eombog didn't want to be accompanied by Manpil, but he couldn't do anything about it. Manpil, who had never been to dig ginseng, followed Eombog around in a hurry like a calf that had been pierced its nose with a nose ring. They made a fire in the forest at night, took a nap, and wandered in the mountains during day. But they could dig not a root of ginseng for several days.
Eombog, wouldn't this be a waste of time?
Do you think it's so easy to dig ginseng?
How can I walk? Because my limbs hurt so badly.
They say that you can't make a bad noise when you come a place like this.
Manpil was the first to suffer from it, since he was born in this world. During the day, he had to follow Eombog while dragging his legs. He had to sleep with his limbs stretched out like a dead frog in a damp place. Sleeping was better than walking, but he had to walk. Manpil wanted to break up with Eombog, so he frequently thought about how he could run away. But he was afraid of losing his way in this dark forest of big old trees. Sometimes he was nauseated by the conduct of Eombog. However, he had no choice but to follow Eombog with the feeling of crying and eating mustard, because Eombog was bigger and stronger than he was. Well, if he were terribly brave, he would die in this deserted forest. When the sun was sinking in the west, they climbed to the top of a mountain.
Oh, I'm dying.
Manpil was so tired that he dropped to the ground and fumed over like a calf that had been driven. Eombog looked through the aspects of mountains. Somehow, he felt like he was going to meet Ginseng. He scythed down a tree with a sickle which he was wearing on his side and set up a tent for staying up all night. After having supper and holding a ritual for mountain gods, Eombog closed his eyes because he was sleepy. Eombog passed through a grove of young pines and went to the cliff. But he could not feel when and how he got there. There was a pine tree standing there. It was so big he could just get his arms around it. He leaned against that pine tree and looked down the bottom. There was a rock cave underneath that cliff. In the cave, unclothed children wearing bright red hats were playing. They were clapping their hands as they rode a strange beast which was like a white serpent with a big head of deer. The beast was very docile, so it ran, rolled, and played as the children told it to do. It was very strange. When Eombog was in the midst of distracting by that scene, the sound of Kwong rang loudly. He surprised, woke up, and it was just a dream. The next day, Eombog woke up as the day came. He was satisfied to think that his dream would be good for him. Even if he made up the breakfast, Manpil just snorted.
Wake up quickly.
Eombog woke Manpil up.
Don't be noisy.
Manpil was annoyed with his sleep.
The sun is high up in the sky.
Oh, no! The ginseng, or the head of a rice cake. I need to sleep a little longer.
Then I'll go alone.
Manpil got up suddenly because Eombog was about to go alone. He grumbled terribly as he rubbed his eyes.
I've dirty dream last night. I was pursued by the serpent and fell into a deep hollow. I couldn't get out of it, so I couldn't sleep all night.
It is said that if the man does not talk finely when he comes to gather ginseng, he will be catastrophic due to the arousing displeasure of the mountain spirit.
Eombog looked askance at Manpil and reproached for him. After breakfast, Eombog left in search of the place he had seen in his dream. As they walked on, following their own feet, walked out. Finally, the grove of young pines appeared. They passed through that grove of young pines, and they found a cliff there. And then, really, the big pine tree he dreamed of was standing on the side of it. As Eombog grabbed the pine tree and looked down, indeed, there was a rock cave.
It's red inside. It must have been a ginseng field. It must be the Madangsam. It's all in one place.
Eombog was so happy that he stood with his eyes closed tightly and shouted,
It's the Bangcho. It's the Bangcho.
and tapped the pine tree with a stick of the shimit birch. The Bangcho means wild ginseng to the Simony, the ginseng digger in the mountain. His voice reverberated in the mountains and rang out far away. The whole Backdu mountain still seemed to be calling it in a deep and thick voice.
It's the Bangcho!
Eombog and Manpil tried to find their way down. There was no way because it was an abyss that seemed to have been cut everywhere. Manpil was impatient that he might not get those ginseng. If those Madangsam become such rice cakes in the sky, what else in the world would be more regrettable than that? Eombog was funny about the restless Manpil. He sat on the rock and lost himself in thought without saying a word. Suddenly, a forest of the Schisandra chinensis came to his eyes.
That's right.
What's right?
Manpil was stunned, so he tapped Eombog on the shoulder.
I've caught a method.
What do you mean?
I'm able to dig up those Madangsam.
How?
I'm gonna roll up the vines of the Schisandra chinensis, braid them into a long cord, and ride it down instead of a rope.
It was the response of Eombog, who was full of confidence and hope. The two tore off the vines of the Schisandra chinensis and braided them into long braids like braiding a long tress of hair. When they pulled it, it was solid. Eombog tied one end of the Schisandra chinensis braid to a pine tree and dropped it. The other end of the Schisandra chinensis braid touched the bottom of the cave. The ginseng was shining red, as if it was asking Eombog to come down and dig me out.
Do you know how to dig ginseng?
Manpil shook his head no.
Then, take it from above.
Eombog took a hoe on his back and a mesh bag on his foot, held the braided rope, and went down slowly.
Hey, hurry up!
Just as if someone goes down before Eombog and digs up all the ginseng, Manpil shouted in a loud voice. Manpil was looking down at the fresh red fruit of ginseng, the crimson ginseng moon, and was excited for nothing.
If I've a few Dongjasams, the precious wild ginseng that looks like a child, I'll get a pretty bride. I can buy a majestic house like a back of whale. I can eat everything I want and splurge on my money. Oh my! It's just a golden light.
He even doubted himself whether this was a dream or a fact. The happiness of the whole world seemed to line up and run toward him. While Manpil was spreading the wing of his illusion for a time, he heard,
It's a rope!
Manpil collected himself and pulled the Schisandra chinensis braid. The mesh bag was dangling from the end of the braided rope, so it was heavy very much. But he pulled it furiously, being indifferent to drip and drip with sweat from his body. He didn't feel it was hard. Wasn't it too important time to think about taking care of his wrists? When he pulled up the mesh bag and unfastened its mouth, there were many Dongjasams, which were not damaged, even its rootlets, like pieces of thread.
Oh my God!
Manpil's heart trembled as his insane joy wildly soared up. After a considerable time, he could suppress his excitement. Manpil, who saw and saw rare ginseng, made his shrewd eyes shiny. His nasty mind lifted its head up. It is said that the gold is an evil, selfish motive. Finally, Manpil made an insidious plan to have all the Dongjasam to himself. Manpil asked, sending down the braided rope.
Eombog, are there still a lot to dig?
Almost to do.
Manpil thought that.
I'll give one mesh bag to the master, and by the service of it, I'll get a bride and buy a house. And then I'll take all the rest of them. Hey, hey, hey!
Eombog, who couldn't even guess Manpil's wicked trick, picked out only big ginseng and carefully dig up them. Manpil pulled up the second mesh bag and shouted.
I'll repair the braided rope, so wait a little.
He dragged the Sassandra chinensis braid for a time, threw it over the grove of young pines, and ran away with only ginseng. This story will be continued in the second part of the Ginseng Cave.